How do you pronounce your last name?
Ciorrocco, but my friends call me C-Roc.
Ciorrocco.
Yeah, we're going live on
C-Roc, okay.
Facebook, and I've started the recording on Zoom. So I want to go ahead and welcome everyone to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy C-Roc. It is a wonderful day in the neighborhood, and I wanted to bring a person that's affected by what's going on right now, probably just as much as anyone. Robert Martinez is my guest today, and I'm going to read a bio so you get an idea of where he's coming from and what he does, and then we're going to get into what he's made of. So basically, what we have, Robert Martinez is Rockstar Capital. I guess, what are you, the founder and principal CEO of it, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Also a digital influencer, a public speaker, and sought after real estate expert. In addition, Rockstar Capital was named number 15 in the Fast 100 fastest growing companies with the Houston Business Journal in 2013. Robert had 3 communities and less than 500 units. Today, that number has grown to 21 properties, 17 cities, state and national apartment association wins since 2011. Did 3,700 units?
Yeah.
Did I read that right? Holy cow.
Yeah, 3,700 apartment units.
335 million assets under management. Robert has been recognized and shared his insights on multiple high-profile publications, some of which notably include CNBC, Forbes, Entrepreneur, Money, Yahoo Finance, and your boy C-Roc's show, What Are You Made Of? I always like to add those into all the other things that you've talked on. So he's also been in a video on real estate with Grant Cardone and has interviewed digital media mogul Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. So I'll leave it at that right now. We're going to get into your other things that you have on here because I'll let you go into them so I don't have to just read them. So Robert, welcome to the show. Do you have a nickname? Do you go by Robert or?
Yeah, you can call me Robert.
Okay. Hey, so Robert, the show's premise is what are you made of? And it's all about setbacks, letdowns, anything that appears negative and converting that into rocket fuel for your future. Now we could talk about the past, the things that you've been through, but we also have to address the elephant in the room right now of what's going on in our world, actually. So I'm going to ask you, Robert, what are you made of?
Man, we're going to find out, right? We're all going to find out what we're made of. I think this virus, this crisis is testing everybody. I think it's testing the things that you did when it was quiet and peaceful. I think it's testing your fiscal responsibility, how solvent you are, how liquid you are, and what you're willing to do to move forward in this. And I think it's also testing your patience, right? Because every day is something new. And you've got to be able to deal with it. I mean, I'm telling you, it's all hands on deck for us at Rockstar Capital. We're in the people business. We are a property management company. We own and manage 21 apartment complexes. That's almost 3,800 rental units. That's like probably 10,000 people that we're responsible for. So while many places had a shelter in place order, we are considered essential work. We are essential employees. We work with people's residences. We take care of them. If a pipe breaks, we have to take care of it. If there's an electrical problem, we got to take care of it. We got to take care of it. I mean, that's just what we're in. We may not be a hospital, but we're taking care of people.
Right. Shelter's very important, man. Essential as it comes. And so there's a big hamper on the health system right now. But of course, anybody that's responsible for residential living, like we are in the mortgage business with Nations Lending. I mean, we're trying to get loans closed as fast as possible for people, but sometimes we're closing these loans and not sure that people are going to have a job to pay the mortgage. And so, yeah, there's a lot of concerns there in regards to that. So we'll get more into that now, but let's go back a little bit. Tell me about how you got started in this in the first place and some setbacks and things that you've used to push you forward.
Yeah, I think everybody, in order to get to that next level of success in your life, the next level that you want to be, you've got to go through a setback. But you got to get something to inspire you. Something has to make it work for you. Either you get angry about something, but it has to have a long-lasting impression. I'm like everybody else. I went to school and got good grades and went to a good school, and that's what I did. I have an engineering degree from Texas A&M. When I graduated, I moved to Houston, Texas. I worked in the oil and gas field. I was a sales guy. I sold equipment to guys with PhDs, and I was really good at it. And I would normally hit my targets. There was a sales contest. I was going to either win it or come in second or something. And what happens in corporate America is that they monkey with your sales forecast. They monkey with your territories, right? You build this great territory up. You got residuals coming in next year. No, you don't. We're going to give it to Tom because Tom's not as good as you, but we're going to give you Tom's old territory, which is crap. And you've got to go and build it up again, right, for your employer. And after that happened to me a couple of times, I realized I don't have control of my financial future. My employer does. And I want that control back, which means I'm not going to be able to dictate when I can retire, the kind of lifestyle I'm going to lead, where my kids are going to go to school, or even the kind of car I was going to drive. My employer had that. And so I decided I was on a mission that I was going to go and find a way to offset at first the money that I wasn't making from my job, the money they had taken away from me because I lost my residual business, right? And I stumbled into real estate. There was a guy I used to listen to on the radio when I was making my sales calls, that he talked about multifamily apartments, talked about single family homes, and I was like, I'm going to go listen. And I went in there thinking I'm going to go buy 2, 3, 4 rent houses. I'm going to find $400 to $1,000 a month of something in my income. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Okay, cool. I came back on Sunday to do the seminar on multifamily apartments, and I was blown away. I didn't realize the valuation that can be created from apartments, which is different than single family houses. Single family houses, you have a comparable. This house is worth this because that guy down the street is worth that. You can do granite, you can do whatever finishes, but it's still only going to go into a certain range. In multifamily apartment, you dictate the value. $1 of NOI creates $16 to $17 of valuation. So if you can do a $50 rent bump on a 100-unit apartment complex, you create a $60,000 of valuation. Of new NOI, but that NOI creates $400,000 of valuation. Isn't that crazy? For just a $50 rent bump. And I realized.
Well, sorry to stop you, but for the novice listener, as far as multifamilies, what does NOI stand for? What is it, so they can understand what you're talking about? Yeah.
So NOI, very simply put, is your gross rental income minus your expenses, which is your NOI. So it's a very basic concept. You learn that in accounting. You learn that in anybody who's doing the bookkeeping for their business. Rent minus expenses equals your NOI. In single family homes, you're compared to everybody else. In multifamily, that NOI determines your valuation.
Right.
And if you apply a cap rate, which is your demand, the amount of money you would make on that investment, you can have serious value generation. As I said, a $50 rent bump across a 100-unit community creates $400,000 of valuation. And when I learned that concept, I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I got into that business. I joined with a partner. He had real estate experience and knowledge. I had local area knowledge. He and I joined together. Over the next 3 years, we did about 2,000 units together. I realized it was time for me to go on my own. From 2011, I started my company, Rockstar Capital. I built it up to 21 communities today that we own and manage. I'm the country's only 2-time national owner of the year, so I understand how that NOI formula works really well. Our company has won 17 city, state, national awards, so we're pretty well known here in Houston, Texas, and in Texas.
So let me ask you this: when you first got into it, though, this isn't something like a single family home where if you make a mistake, you can get out of it pretty simply. But when you do something like this, what was your first purchase? How many units?
First purchase was, I was the operating partner in the deal. We did 238 units on that deal, paid about $8 million. I put $200,000 of my own money in, and that's the best way. If you have that kind of cash, it's hard to put that in single family houses and get, how many are you going to buy, right? And then you have to try to manage them. You can put that in one asset, like a 238 unit apartment complex. You get a full manager, an assistant manager, a lead maintenance, an assistant maintenance, and probably another support staff in there to help you run the deal. And that's the key, that you can't do it yourself. In a single family, you're doing it all yourself. In multifamily, you have help. And it's, I didn't limp into it. You're probably going to ask me, well, why didn't you go to 6 unit, 8 unit? Well, because I didn't want another job. I didn't want to go and try to manage 6 units by myself. I didn't want to have to try to find a contractor that's going to come in and paint. I didn't want to have to go and knock on doors for rent. You need scale. And to be able to afford a manager, you need at least 40 units. To be able to afford a manager and a lead maintenance outside, you need about 100 units. And that's where it went from there. It's all about the economies of scale.
And so you did a lot of research before you bought your first one, so you could wrap your head around it and work the numbers before you made the decision, and then got into it.
Absolutely. I joined a real estate club. Yeah, I joined a real estate club. You got to invest in yourself first before you invest in anything else, because you're going to make mistakes. And typically these real estate schools or clubs, everybody there wants to do what you're doing. They're all on the same page, and they share with you their mistakes, their issues, hoping that you'll share with them what you learned as well. And so it's a really good networking opportunity there to learn from other people.
What's your ideal LTV when you're buying something?
It's 75%. Loan to value, 75% is what we try to do. Back in the scene, I got in 2007. So that was before the recession hit, the Obama era recession, and back then the guys were doing 80, 85%, 90% leverage, and they went under. during the recession, right? Because the valuations went down, they weren't able to survive when the rents went down with it. Their debt service was too high. No, 75% is a good number right now, but I know you do lending right now. We're seeing lending for multifamily to go down to 65% in some markets. And it changes the way the number, it's safe for the lender and it's probably safe for you, but you ask yourself, is that the best place to get my money, right? Because as you put more leverage into it or less leverage into it, your returns go down.
Right. And so give me some ideas of mistakes that you've made, if you don't mind sharing, that you've learned from, that you wouldn't mind sharing with other people so that they can kind of learn from you and help avoid them.
I think the biggest advice that I would give to somebody is to understand the most important person in that apartment complex is not the owner. It's the person sitting in that chair. They are running a multi-million-dollar business. That first deal was $8 million. And whatever decision that manager does, whether she leases, whether she renews, whether she decides to fix this, whether she decides to call back that person, shifts. You move the needle very quickly in multifamily investing. And if you have the wrong person there, if she's not properly trained, he or she are not properly trained, or they come from a bad situation at home and they bring their problems to work with you, they can tank your investment and your money and your investors' money. So I think is something I learned from Gary Vaynerchuk is, hiring is easy, firing is hard. I think you need to communicate very quickly first what the expectations are, what you're going to give back to them if they hit certain goals, and if they don't hit them, you got to move on, because I'm telling you, there's too much money on the line.
Yeah, I mean, just a slight mistake could cost you thousands, hundreds of thousands, probably. And so
right,
now,
and a lot of times, C-Roc, is because you don't want to stretch to get that higher end manager. $5,000, $10,000 more in a salary is nothing compared to what that manager can do if she's the right manager. She can move that needle, even $20,000, right? Because if she just leases a couple more apartments per month, or keeps your occupancy 2 more points higher, she more than pays for herself. Right. And you got a quality person sitting in the chair. I can tell you right now, during this crisis, you want quality people sitting in that chair. You want to know that they're going to go to work for you. And if you nickel and dime them, what's their incentive to want to work hard for you and push? If you went the budget route and you didn't get the person that you really should have gotten, you're going to be paying for it right now in this crisis.
Nickel and diamond, you gets nowhere anytime. I mean,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, now, of course, if you're wasting money, that's stupid. But when you're looking at positions that mean something, or products that mean something, assets, real estate that means something, like the properties that you buy, I bet they're not crap holes. I'm sure you look at that as well and understand that your success has been dictated on the types of properties that you purchase as well, right?
Absolutely. When we're looking at a deal, I try to find the deals that have value add potential. I don't want a yield play. I want something that's got some value that can create value. Because especially in a time like this, if you buy at the top of the market and you buy a deal that only has yield in it, your yield's only going to go down right now, because rents are going to come down next month. Occupancy is going to come down. But if you have a value add deal, you got some more to play with in there, right? And so, it value adds where you want to go. And I try to target deals that are either well located and or the ownership has been there a long time, or the manager has been there a long time. Because what happens is you get complacency. You got to constantly have a revolving door of 3 to 4 or 5 years. You got to move that manager out and get new ideas. You remove the friendships and the relationships that will keep them from acting like the business owner and more like the best friend of the renters that are living with you.
Right on. And so now during this thing right now that's going on in the economy in general, like you said you got all hands on deck, but like, what are kind of things that you're going to be dealing with going forward? Like, obviously nobody expected this to happen the way it happened. This
Right.
Obviously a recession could came at any time, but not like this.
Right.
This is drastic.
Right.
So I don't even know if you could plan for something like this. So just give me your thoughts on that. I mean, I don't even know what to say with it sometimes when I'm looking at like what Grant's going through right now and what you're dealing with. I mean, it's just,
yeah.
I'm not trying to say I feel sorry for you or anything like that. It's not that. It's just like, I'm trying to put myself in people's shoes and say, man, what would I do with this situation?
Yeah. I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me. I chose to be in this chair. I chose to be multifamily. I chose to be real estate. These are part of the risks, right? So number one, right, the tax man came calling 2 years ago, and he did dramatic increases in Houston, Texas, like 80, 100% increase in your taxable value, which meant our tax bill went up. Well, we got caught with that, and we didn't want to get caught again. So we have a very healthy reserve. We have a rainy day account on average 6 months per property that I have. We have 21 properties. That means if I don't take another rent dollar in, I can survive 6 months. If I can get it down to 60% occupancy, I stress tested it. 60% occupancy carries me out a year, right? So we're okay from a number one fiscal responsibility. As I said at the beginning, you and I were talking, this is testing everybody's fiscal responsibility when times were good. It's testing your solvency and your liquidity. So number one, you got to protect the investment and have sufficient cash in there. Number two, you got to protect your people. Right now, everybody's using gloves. We have sanitizer. We have masks. We've closed the offices recently, but we've spent the time before that to have a virtual environment. You can go to any one of my communities and take a virtual tour, a real 3D tour where it immerses you into that unit. You can do everything paperless. You know, we were ready for today. You know, as I said, I keep referencing Gary or Grant, right? Because they're role models for me. They're mentors of mine. You know, Gary once said to me, find a way to put yourself out of business and exploit it, and figure out how someone would exploit it, and then find the defense against it. And right here, right now, people not wanting to come to the properties is a big deal for us. How are they going to lease, right? I have a lot of colleagues who didn't put the time and the effort and the resources into making sure they were running a virtual office, to making sure that people can do everything paperless right now. That's a big exposure right now for people. But really, the true test is going to come April 1st. You know, you got 3.8 million people that applied for unemployment. Blows out the previous record. You know, we're actually making calls right now, calling our residents. Has the coronavirus affected you? Did you lose your job? Can you prove it to us? Do you have letterhead? We can give you a payment plan. We can waive late fees, right? But because rent's going to be due on the 1st. We're also doing little things where if you pay your rent by 1st, we'll give you a discount on May's rent, right? To encourage that coming in, right? So you're doing a lot of things, but it is hand to hand right now, man. I'm here talking to you on this podcast, but I got 109 people at my company right now that are on the phone talking to people. Yeah,
and listen, I'm glad you came on. I know you could have postponed this, and I appreciate you coming on here. And, you know, it's good that we got Facebook Live is working because it wasn't working earlier today, and so we can get the word out. But I want to point something out. You just said that you guys are making calls, not waiting to see if the payments come in. A lot of people this is the way they'd handle it. April 1st would come around. Then they'd sit and see what comes in April 5th, April 10th. Oh boy, now I got to call. That's reactive. We don't ever work that way in our business. And I see that you don't, and that's why you're successful. Proactiveness is the way to be. And showing them that you care.
We've already called our lenders too. They want to know, hey, are you in trouble? Like, no, here's our reserves. Here's our balance sheet. And by the way, we're not going to need a forbearance. In fact, I don't know if you know how the forbearance works right now, but you don't want it. It is literally like a poison pill. It's 3 months of no evictions, 3 months more after the forbearance period of no evictions, which means you have people living in your apartment and then you still owe the money within 12 months. It's a poison pill. It doesn't make any sense. So we're really happy that we have the funds that we can move forward. We were very proactive, as you mentioned a minute ago. We're knocking on doors. We're talking to people. We're making sure that we're aware, we're communicating. If you can communicate with us, we can communicate with you our plan to help you. And then I can communicate with my investors as well. Here's what we're going to expect. This is what's going to happen. We're projecting 10%, loss occupancy or 15% loss occupancy. Nobody wants to be surprised. I'm not going to sit on April 1st and, hey, let's just see what happens and roll the dice. That doesn't help anybody.
No, it's a great lesson for individuals too, with their own bills and what's going on right now. Everybody should be assessing their financial situation. If you don't do that on a regular basis, do it now and figure out where you got to be to prepare. It's just like, that's why people are running out to get to the toilet paper, man. Because they see this stuff happen and they're preparing. You got to do that with your finances too. Don't just do it with the toilet paper, because I mean,
or the eggs,
or the eggs, or the meat. Man, I'm a chicken guy. Look, I can't find ground turkey or ground chicken or chicken breast anywhere. It's crazy. Now I got to eat all the bad food. So no, but that's a great lesson, and this will bring out a lot of opportunities for people like you as well, right? I mean, there's going to be people, unfortunately, that are going to not be able to make their commitments. And is it something that you look for right now, or do you wait to get through this before you start looking for opportunities?
Well, you see, that's the difference between a wartime general and a peacetime general. I went through this in 2007. I know exactly what's going to happen. This is following exactly. It's a different kind of situation, but it's the exact thing that's going to happen. Occupancies are going to fall. Rents are going to fall with it to try to get the occupancy back up, and people are going to go under. They're not going to have the debt service, the ratios and the covenants that they need to meet their lender obligations. They may take advantage of the forbearance, but it's only going to last for so long, right? And so, there will be opportunities a year from now, 6 months to a year from now, where you can go in there and maybe pick up a couple of deals for less than what the market would have as well. But it's testing to see what you did during peacetime. Were you ready to go? Were you preparing for war? A good general is always preparing to go to war. He just lets it play out, and when it's ready. And thankfully, I got in the business in January of '07. So I had my deal for a full year and a half before the recession ever hit, and I learned those lessons. And well, we were ready then, or what we weren't ready, and what we did wrong, what we did right. And it's just, you remember it all. You learn. If it stings enough, you'll learn. You'll adapt, and you won't let it hurt you again.
Yeah, I mean, I went through it in the mortgage business. So right now, the same thing. Like, I'm looking at opportunities for loan officers that can't get their loans closed at other mortgage companies. Guys, Nations Lending is strong, by the way. So we're in great shape right now. We prepared properly 3 years ago to be able to work from home if we need to. And not only that, we got the best talent from all over the country that can work from home. I don't have to just look in my local markets. I can run an ad and get somebody from California that's a processor for me that works from home, that's the best talent. We did that a long time ago. It took us 3 days to transition to being able to work from home, and we did it well before we were required to. Nations Lending is strong. We're closing loans. And so anybody out there that's a loan officer, if your loans aren't getting closed, hit your boy C-Roc up. Besides that, we have great culture. We grow people and bring greatness out of them. And this is a great opportunity to find that out. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I'm looking for opportunities right now. And for you, Robert, how long until you start looking? You said 6 months to 12 months will be some, but when do you actually start looking and preparing for those opportunities for yourself, though?
Well, we're always looking right now, right? I mean, we're talking to our investors, letting them know about their current obligations, their current investments with us, but then, hey, there will be opportunities soon. We've got a deal closing. We feel that this deal is a little insulated from what's occurring right now. Would you want to continue to invest with us? Do you trust us? Do you back the jockey, or do you back the horse? Kind of situation. And that's what it is. You're always looking, because you got to be paying attention, because you got to see how the market's moving. You can't just put, your goggles on and say, I'll come back to this in 6 months. You're not going to understand. It's going to take you time to figure out where the pulse of the market is. But if you stay active, you know what's going on. You don't lose the pulse.
Right. And I got to keep, by the way, I know we're live on Facebook and I'm recording this as well, but this is unusual times, and I have kids at home and they're homeschooling right now. So we have alarms going off in the background to keep them structured. By the way, so do you have children, Robert?
I do. I have a 14 and 11.
Okay. So when you've got all this going on, what are you doing at home to keep them focused and structured instead of just playing video games and just going about their day in a regular process?
Well, I think it's a wonderful opportunity I think my kids play video games too, believe me. They have 2 rigs over there in my office set up to play the latest and greatest, right? I think it's a wonderful opportunity for people and families to reconnect with their children and talk. I think parents right now are learning what teachers go through on a day-to-day basis with their child, specifically on either how their behavior is, are they attentive, do they need additional help? I think it's an amazing opportunity for everybody. When my children are with me, we try to watch movies. We try to do things together. But more importantly, I let them know what's going on in my business. I share with them, these are the things that we're struggling on. Hey, we're going to have a problem April 1st. Let me tell you what that means. You have to educate them. You got to let them know, right? Because I wish I knew these kind of lessons when I was their age. I wish somebody was there. My dad, he wasn't able to do it for me. He came from a different life, and, smartest guy I knew, but he just didn't have the opportunity that I was able to get it later in life. And, I try to share with my kids that.
Yeah. So a lot of lessons from what you like. I look back at what I grew up and my father and my mother and what they couldn't provide at the time because they just didn't know. It's not that they didn't want the best for me. They just didn't have the knowledge. Right. And so what I try to look back is see how I can do better than they did, not to spite them or not to slight them in any means, but just looking back at those lessons. And that's a good thing. But what we're doing with our kids, we put them on a schedule. So Sunday, my wife and I sat down and put a schedule together for them, making sure they're writing their goals down, teaching them the things that we go through every day, and also making sure that they contribute to the household so that they can feel like a contributing member of the house. But do your kids listen to you when you're talking to them about lessons from work and life? Because mine don't sometimes, or most of the time. I'm
very blessed. My kids are very good at that. They pay attention, especially my youngest one. I think I'm his hero, and anything I say is like God's talking to him, right? So I'm really, really lucky. I'm blessed that they listen. And then what's interesting is that when you ask them to repeat it, that's when you really know if they took the information in. And that's, he's like, well, yeah, you said this and this and this. And once in a while, they'll say it in a way that I wasn't saying it, and it gets like a random thought in my head to go like, oh, that's a great idea. I didn't think about presenting it like that. Or I didn't think about that little subject there, or that little structure that he did. Created like a little funnel for me. Like, I'm going to do this now. It created like a little tangent, and it made me think of something. So it's interesting to hear them understand and comprehend, because otherwise you're just wasting your time, right?
Well, a good parent, a smart parent learns from their kids. because the kids are they're
There you
out there
go.
picking up things that we're not involved with and around all the time. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
I got some people on here.
Absolutely.
If you guys watching, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments. I'll try to get to them before we cut off here. And I don't do a lot of live Facebook streaming on these. I did a few in the past, but I'm getting better at it. So that's a great idea to do. If you have any, just pop them in the comments and we'll try to answer them. Robert, what do you have to offer besides the multifamily properties and all that? What do you do? Anything for the audience, any services or anything that they could help you or support you with?
Well, first of all, you can come to I'm found on social media. So you can go to Instagram, find me under the Apartment Rockstar. You can go to Facebook under Robert Martinez. LinkedIn, I got tremendous amount of creative articles and just valuetainment for you. We're currently developing an education part of our business. It has not come out yet. It's in development. So I will have it. I get reached out a lot by people. Hey, will you mentor me? Or do you have any classes? And it really wasn't a focus of mine. I was just working my business, right? But as I've gotten really good at this, and I'm starting to get on stages now, and people are wanting to talk, and wait, there could be an opportunity here, right, to help teach and mentor other people so they can do what I do. Because real estate changed my life. It was a game changer for me. Family tree situation changed. Right, net worth, jumped and jumped. Exponentially because of real estate, but because I learned how real estate works, and that's the problem. People don't want to take the time to learn. They just jump in there, buy their first house, and they think they're going to flip it like they show them on TV, and there's no knowledge whatsoever. You got to pay to not make mistakes, and if you do it right, I paid $10,000 for that first club. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money to me. I'm like, I can't imagine blowing this off, right? But the guy that ran it said 80-20 rule here. 80% of you will do nothing with it. So even if you pay, you better take advantage of it. You better go and realize, hey, 10,000 doesn't come easy. It didn't come easy, 13 years ago to me, and it doesn't come easy to me today. Make sure you take advantage of it and learn from the very best. I'm a 2-time National Owner of the Year. No one in the country has done that. I'm pretty good at what I do.
How did you?
But I have the best team too. I got a really good team.
Well, of course, and that's what matters, right? Because everything that I do has people involved, even if you don't see them. Yeah. Everything has the people, like a team of people behind it. But did you shoot for that Best Owner of the Year? Did you even know that was an award out there, or did you just get awarded?
I did not. I didn't know that. I just was trying to run my deals, and I heard about this award back in the day. I won the first one back in 2013. So I'd only been in the business maybe 5-6 years. I'd only been the real sponsor, the deal maker, 3 years at that point. 2 years at that point, and we just grew our company, and you had to wait 5 years before you could win it again. And so I didn't have a marketing team then. Now I have a 5-person marketing team. I'd like to apply again. And it was if you look at my submission from 2019 versus my submission in 2013, it's night and day. How did I win back in 2013 when there was guys like this around, right? But I was able to win it twice. I'm really proud of that achievement. But it's a team effort. We've won those 17 big wins, but only 3 of those are mine. The rest of them belong to my company. Those are individual awards. Those are Property of the Year awards. Those are National Property of the Year award. I wasn't sitting in the chair. I wasn't the one saying, hey, I'm going to lease for this person or I'm going to renew that person. But I had just provided the facility, the learning, the mentorship, the leadership. We all won together.
And the people buy in and the culture. Talk about real quick before we go. There's 2 things I wanted to ask about. One is culture. How did you instill a culture in your company, and how do you maintain a great culture? Because culture is your foundation. I know that. You know that.
I try not to hire. Nobody joins my company unless I meet them first, unless I interview them with me. So there's a chain of interviews. I want to know who's joining this business, number one. Number 2, I'm going to say to them very quickly, I'm going to give you 51% of the relationship. Tell me what's important to you. And my thought process is that if I help you get what you want, you're going to help me get what I want. And number 3 is that I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win. I see it. This is it. This is what's here for me, but I don't want to win alone. I can't stand the idea of winning alone. I want to be on the top of that mountain. I want to look around. I want to slap somebody on the back and say, hey, remember that time back in 2020 we went through that Corona thing? Oh my gosh, right? Or remember back in 2007 the recession? Remember how we won? Remember how we did it together? And I want them there, which means they have to invest with me. So I've offered my employees a chance to invest with me. I will match them up to a certain number. Other ones have been able to invest their own money. And it changes the game when they own they own the apartment complex with you. And they don't just work at the apartment complex. You get a very different performance, and they feel more than anything that you care.
I love it, man. I love it. I get chills thinking about that kind of stuff, man. And that's why ballers, sports players, rappers, all that, they get all this money real quick, have an entourage, because it sucks being by yourself if you have money or success or anything. Nobody wants to be alone. And so, yeah, but that's a great thing, man. But I love culture, and that's a big, big topic in our organization. Last thing I'm going to leave, because I know you got to go, and you're a busy man right now. Do the guys that like you and Grant and all that, do you guys get along and hang out and talk a little bit about what's going on and kind of consult each other of kind of mastermind a little bit?
Yes, I'm glad you said that. Here in Houston, there's about 10 guys that I know that we're all on the same email chain, and we're all sharing different things, right? Because there's a lot of mistakes we can still make, even after getting trained, even after being in the business 13 years. You can still make mistakes related to the tax man, property insurance. There's a variety of things, right? And I'm on this, like, I guess it's like a mastermind, right? It's like a group of 10 of us, maybe a little bit more. We invite people in, some people leave, right? But we share ideas. You know, we meet every so often, but we're constantly available by email. And right now with all this virus, we're sharing information. Hey, be careful with this lender, right? Because he's saying this, but he's not really saying that. Or be careful with the taxman. I just saw a 55% increase. Has yours come in? Who are you going to use to process your taxes, right? And so we share. That's how you win. You win together. You go into the forest holding hands with somebody, you know, you have a better chance of coming out, you know, if you go in with a lot of people versus going in by yourself. And I think we all realize that. It's the abundance mentality.
Yeah, very few get to the top with a scarcity mindset. It just doesn't happen.
No.
But listen, Robert, I want to thank you so much for coming aboard. Listeners, go support Robert. Follow him on his Instagram, and we'll put everything in the show notes for you as well. But thank you for coming on, especially in this tumultuous time that we're dealing with right now. I know you'll get through it because I know the type of guy that you are, and I appreciate you telling us what you're made of, brother.
Hey, C-Roc, thanks for having me on your show. And again, you can get a hold of me at rockstarcapital.com.